English afternoon.
That one's good. It's just like
It's just like what?
the Irish breakfast that I have. But then I
What's
got
up, Music Well? Were you waiting in that other stupid... Ugh. I don't know what was wrong, but for some reason that stupid event I had today, David, it wouldn't let me go live. For some reason, I don't know what it was. It kept saying waiting for the revolting man, waiting for the revolting man, and I was like, I'm here, I'm here. Hey, HH Country. Free America, how's it going, bud? So we're here. I'm really stressed out. Mariah's mad at me. I've been snapping at everybody because I couldn't make the stupid technology work. Hey, Speedy. Mac, how's it going, bud? So we're going to try to Semper Fi, Kevin. Try to do this and gun fan you. Woohoo! Leighton Farm, shalom. Uh, and uh, and hopefully get back on track. Boski. So the moderators, I know I saw Free America and I saw David. H&H's been trying for an hour to edit a video. So we'll try to. Hi from Dover, Oklahoma. How's it going, Clancy? I don't know if Biddy's in yet or if we're going to see her tonight. She's from out there somewhere. So the whole point of this evening was we were supposed to talk about that week we did where we only ate food that we raised here on the homestead. We've had a hell of a day. And like I said, I apologize. I was having trouble with the technology, and that always stresses me out. Mariah's over here drinking her tea. North Kentucky Homestead. Is that NKY? Is that North Kentucky? So we're gonna try to be pleasant with each other now for a little while and talk about this. We've threatened all the children with death. Hey, Jessica's here. Is Kevin with you, Jessica, or is it you? Jessica says hello, Mariah. She's still mad at me.
I'm not mad at you.
You're mad at me. But we, some somber, it's not somber news. Some of you know, my grandmother's been passing for a while. And, oh, Kevin's at church. That's where he should be. Hey, it's Montana Woods Runner. How you doing, sir? She passed this afternoon about 3 o'clock. So, hey, mid-main's here. 3:30, maybe 3:40. I don't remember now. We were over there with her. So we were spending time with family this afternoon and came screaming in at the last second. Literally, like, we got home at 7:45 and I started, Speedy, she was old. She was 87. She had a good life. She was in very poor health. So it's good that she's gone on now. But that's why we're a little discombobulated, and I'm trying to get my thoughts collected. So I guess we're just going to jump into it. And she's not in any pain any longer. You were correct, David, and she was. And she'd been out of it for about 2 weeks, and just hanging on for dear life, I guess. But she hadn't eaten or drank anything in a long time, and she was out of consciousness most of the time, and it was time for her to go. I for her sake, I wish she maybe could have slipped away a week or two earlier. But when the time came this evening, she did. She just sort of let go and went on to her reward. And she's a Christian. She's in a better place now. So it's not a tragedy, but it's somber. It's somber. So there we go. So the mini challenge, the eating all. Is that really bothersome? Me rocking like that, guys? Is that giving you motion sickness? Yeah, David. She was mostly out, but she would every once in a while come in for just a second. And like if you had to change her or roll her, or you were moving her to keep from getting bed sores and stuff. Anytime you touched her, you just put a hand on her, and she thought she was in terrible pain. She started crawling out and trying to struggle and everything. So she would fade in every once in a while, but not very frequently. So it's made me think about my end of life decisions. You know, I don't know. I think I'm going to take up hang gliding when I reach a certain age. I'm not sure what age that is yet, though. I would imagine when the time comes, you're constantly thinking next year, next year, next year. So I don't know. I'll have to pick an arbitrary age where I suddenly stop trying to be careful. Jessica, are you guys coming to the retreat? If you're still out there. That was last year. The music well picked up hang gliding already. It does make one take stock Montana. Yeah, it is a much better. I was uploading a video last time, David, and I think that's why the bandwidth was so limited. We've kicked all the kids off the Wi-Fi, and everyone's tiptoeing around trying to be quiet. Keep rocking looks normal for me. I live on a sailboat. Oh, sweet. You're my dad's hero. That's what he wants to do. Is he wants to go off on a sailboat. Hey, someone in from Portland. Oh, it's my Sky. How's it going, brother? Haven't checked out your channel lately, but I saw you uploaded some stuff. I just hadn't got a chance to go check it out yet. All right, so your guess is better than mine. I know nothing about smartphones. Hey, Cracker, getting any rain yet? Yeah, it's raining. Okay. It started raining about an hour or so ago. It's just drizzling, though. I was supposed to get some manure into the garden tomorrow and cut some firewood, and this may give me an excuse not to do either. Huge geomagnetic storm. The sun's been acting up. Can anybody hear it or feel it? My ears are ringing. So, huge geomagnetic storm. I thought the whole point of this grand solar minimum is that we weren't going to be getting any more of those for a while. Someone fill me in on that. I've been trying to read some websites about this whole grand solar minimum, and it's pouring in northern Kentucky. And I haven't been able to make heads or tail of it for the most part. Clancy's fiancée lost her stepdad this week. Life is short. Yes, it is. Geostorm isn't a sunspot. All right, so somebody else understands this at least. Okay, so let me try to get on track here. Cluster of sunspots, and while we are in the grand solar minimum, our magnetosphere pauses each weekend, which charges up our atmosphere, which is why, and it went away. Okay, so here's what My Sky 5D says. There's a cluster of sunspots, and while we are in the grand solar minimum, it went away again. Dadgummit. Our magnetosphere pauses for the weekend. That's probably autocorrect. I doubt the magnetosphere takes the weekend off. Which charges up our atmosphere. This is why they spray chemtrails to try to block some of that electromagnetic radiation back into space that our magnetospheres for you normally did uncompromised. I think autocorrect's messing with us there, Five Sky. Bonnie Blue says the magnetosphere is thinning, makes our planet more susceptible. Everything's normal in Florida, Bo. Okay. Life's got to look pretty good from the deck of a sailboat, though, Bo. I don't know anyone's gonna. They might want a second opinion. Northern Kentucky might ask for a second opinion about how life is from the guy on the deck of a sailboat. So, what we were, the whole mini challenge thing, eating all off-grid, eating off-grid. The whole point was to only eat things for a week that we had produced. It was an eye-opening experience. The first thing, we were going to start Monday morning, and when we did, I went into work that morning, and they needed me to go out of town for a couple days. So right off the bat, I was, Hawkeye got 6 yards, buckets on the side of the road Thursday. What? Ark is right around the corner from me. Oh, you're talking, the real Ark is right around the corner from you. That's the, what is that thing called up there? I was looking at cow pies and thinking how good it would help a garden. Yeah. So right off the bat, Mariah was doing it by herself. We weren't making the kids do it, and I was out of town for 2 weeks, and unfortunately, I was eating very well. Or 2 weeks, 2 days. Actually, I wasn't eating well at all. I was eating terrible, but I was eating, at restaurants and stuff, and they gave us $40 a day to eat off of, and they wouldn't give us the cash. We had to take a credit card and pay for the food with the credit card. And so we made sure to use the entirety of our $40. If they'd given us the money, you know, we'd eaten peanut butter and jelly 3 meals a day and brought home the extra. But so anyway, the point being, Mariah was doing it the first 2 days by herself. I came home late Tuesday night and started on Wednesday. And so it wasn't a full experiment for me. The crazy thing is by Thursday I was craving junk so bad that I mean, I was like having to fight with myself. It was stupid. We don't normally eat all that much junk. We'll binge. We'll go through periods where we've got it around and we binge, but usually it's not available to us. And I was like, I wasn't even 24 hours into this thing, and I was already jonesing for stuff I would normally have in a 24-hour period. It was a really interesting experiment as far as just a mental. It wasn't an experiment, but it was very eye-opening about my own discipline and self-control. And we would talk about our flesh. You know, not everyone would use that terminology, but my flesh just rising up and saying, "You can't deny me. You can't discipline me. You know, you feed me, Seymour, feed me." So anyway, that was the big takeaway for me was how hard it was, and we weren't hungry. You know, we had lots and lots of food, but just being restricted, and maybe it would be different now if you had no choice and there was nothing else, and you didn't have options. Maybe it wouldn't be so hard, but I was shocked at how hard it was to restrict our diet down to that point, where food, you know, people talk about comfort food, but food is like entertainment for us. Baby, are you ready to jump in here? I guess you could sit on the.
I would have liked to have tried to do the desktop thing.
It just wasn't going to work. Where was I? She's still mad at me.
See? Can I try?
You can try, but I think the reason it wasn't letting me on partly was because we were logged in 2 places. Mariah wants to be logged in on the computer so she can watch the comments. We're actually not getting any comments right now.
You're logged in.
Williamstown, the Ark Experience, that's what it's called. North Kentucky lives near the guy made a replica of the Ark. Where was I? Oh, I don't know. Flesh. Yeah, because you sit down to dinner and you're always, excited. Oh, what's for dinner? What are we going to make for dinner? And that wasn't really a question. We knew what we were going to have for dinner. We were going to have sweet potatoes and dried beans and dried tomatoes and collards and frozen corn and cornmeal. We actually had a lot to eat. I mean, but for some reason it was difficult to do. I don't understand it at all, or why.
Mariah's a good woman. See, I would miss this. Thank you, Speedy.
Mariah saw that, Speedy. I'm not getting any comments over here now.
Well, you should listen to your wife every now and then.
No.
Maybe she might be helpful.
Anyway. So that, to me, that was the biggest takeaway, that if you've never eaten, if you've never had your food restricted like that, where you don't have infinite choices, where you don't get to walk into, a super Walmart and have food choices from literally all over the world, that's something to maybe try. Even if you can't do the off-grid, all food you've produced yourself thing, just restricting yourself for a week to the point where you only have X amount of options. It was eye-opening to me. And as soon as that, like I said, I only did it for 5 days when it was all said and done. At the end, I was like, and we bailed technically we bailed early. We bailed Sunday night and said, all right, we got to go. We went and got some Papa John's pizza. And so we stopped a meal short, but that, you know what, I didn't even, I'm not even ashamed, not even embarrassed. It was that, I don't, difficult's not the right word, but anywho, it was eye-opening. Are we getting comments over there, Mariah? I'm not seeing anything. Is this even still going anymore? Someone say something. Okay. So they're getting redirected over there now that we're logged in over there?
You've been logged in over here the whole time. Nobody logged you out.
What's this? Show live chat messages. I don't know. All right. It's not important. The comments keep me rolling a little bit when I can see them. But anywho. So what did we figure out? What did we learn? We had to have a fat source. Midweek we had to add butter to the mix. Literally, I mean, like I got home Tuesday night and by Wednesday I said, all right, we're adding butter. Lesson learned, we know that we don't have a fat source. And not just like a fat, because you want to taste fat source, but like just for cooking, oil and stuff. It was difficult to cook eggs. We had 2 chickens left over that lasted about the first 4 or 5 days, but they were scrawny little old things, and we didn't get any fat off of them. I think that was Mariah's intention, was to get fat off of them and use that to cook in, but there was just no fat on them. So we're gonna research some peanut varieties. We think that's probably our best option here to figure out what kind of peanut, because the different peanut varieties are for different things, and you get more oil off of some than others. So we're going to find a new peanut variety, because our peanuts did real well the first couple of years we planted them, but they've degraded over time. Not sure why, if, just the genetics have gone bad, or something's changed in our soil, but they're not.
You not want to try to move over here, so you
I really don't. So we're gonna get a different variety of those and try to get some cooking oil and whatnot. What else? We need more meat production, or I got to learn how to hunt or fish one. I can't do either. Where are all of my comments at? I can't see any of them. Here's the dog yelling. Say hello to the dog. He just wants to get petted. I can't pet you and talk at the same time. So we need some more meat production, especially if we're going to add all the kids into it, and try to make them all eat like this. Those 2 chickens were. The kids actually did some of this. They didn't know it, but some of those meals they were involved in eating. The stuff that, some of those meals that Mariah made were all homegrown, and they ended up eating them and everything. But they didn't eat every meal all homegrown. I think their breakfasts were, and lunches, and I think they had snacks and stuff. The other thing was that Mariah made a sweet potato souffle at some point that was a game changer. Up to that point, once she made that, it made it a lot easier. It was some kind of dessert. It had a lot of sugar in it, because if you didn't watch the videos, we allowed sugar and salt and sugar, salt, and tea, and then butter about halfway through, and then we bought eggs just because our chickens aren't producing eggs right now. So that was and then we had the sweet potatoes and the beans and a bunch of leftover stuff. And then the collards and kale and everything. I think YouTube's messing with me again, folks. I've got no updates. It hasn't showed that there's been any extra people log in. I'm not getting any comments. I think they're messing with me, and I feel like I'm probably being a little boring. And I hate being boring. Yep, no, I don't have any comments since North Kentucky told us about the ARC experience. So anything you've said since then I haven't read, and I apologize, and I'm not just ignoring you. But YouTube just wants to make me angry this evening. So what else can we talk about? The some fun stuff going on with the FBI. You guys normally feed me, or you fed me the last time, and this was effortless. I just went off of y'all's comments. Fun stuff going on over at the FBI. If you, I bet Burden's probably up on all this. And I think we got a guy on right now who's overseas. I don't want to call him out because he's on active duty military, and he could hurt his career watching this channel probably. But if I'm not mistaken, one of the folks we've got logged on right now, or had logged on earlier, is on active duty, and he just went overseas. So y'all keep him in your prayers. Actually, one of my brothers just deployed too Saturday. He went, and he's over in UAE. He's in the United Arab Emirates. I'm not entirely sure what he's doing. He didn't really give me a clear indication of what he's doing, but he's got a young wife and a 1-year-old son, and he'll be gone for 6 months. So y'all remember him too. And what else is going on? Oh, Burden's getting his back took care of soon. So remember Burden. How'd the cow do, David? Did y'all get her on her feet, or is she close to calving? And where'd Mariah go? Hey, do you want to say anything about this whole thing?
About what?
About the food week?
I would if I can go over there where the comments are.
Well, I don't know how that would work.
Okay.
She wants to see the. I want to see the comments. I don't know why they're not here. I don't even know if anyone's even here anymore. I think this thing is. We might not even be streaming. Let's give this a shot. See if the light's going to get by. You guys are going to see the house. You want to see some girls? Girls wave. Hi. Let me see if I can get this pulled up. Live now, 31 watching. Yeah, see, mine says 33. You know, they probably are messing with me because I titled the whole thing, YouTube is stupid. If I changed the title, maybe they'd stop screwing with me. All right, live control room, live events. And it's still not showing me. Oh, there we go. Cow is, oh. David says cow is still down. We are still turning her. I don't like to get rid of it. And then the mustache. I have an epic stash, man. I'm sorry. I'm so proud of the stash. So I can't bring myself to trim the stash because the beard itself was a little patchy, but the stash is just I mean, I look like a 1970s California state trooper with this mustache. It's amazing. That is a fire hazard in welding, pal. It's a fire hazard in regular everyday life, Mountain. Hey, Jimmy's here. A lot of buffering. Okay. Anyone else having some buffering problems? Burden had a mustache when he was 13. That doesn't surprise me, Burden. Ain't nobody got time for shaving. No, it's a pain in the neck. And it's expensive. I mean, razors are stinking, especially good ones, are a couple dollars a piece. And they don't last that long. Hey, no destruction without creation. How you doing, brother? Do you reload? I really want to start reloading. I save all my brass. I've got buckets of brass just sitting around, but I have not gotten to the point where I am comfortable. Look at that. That's a teenage girl. Is she on Wi-Fi?
Me?
Yeah.
No, it's not on my thing.
Okay. I was going to say that might have been the source of Jimmy D's buffer in there. Yeah, Mid-Maine's music dad was born with a mustache. A revolting without a beard is like a garden without manure. You are not. There are other people who would agree with you. The beard is a handle in a fight. There's someone who does judo. Where was I? Oh, I don't remember now. There's Jessica. Oh, we were talking about reloading. I really want to start reloading. I don't have the $200 it takes to get started with the barest minimum setup. But it's on the list. Like so many other things that are on the list. Reloading equipment is much more expensive than razors. Yes, it is. Burden's got no buffering issues. Maybe Jimmy D's just got a bad internet service provider. Mountain Truth reloads 12 calibers. Yikes. I don't even have 12 guns, let alone 12 calibers. Yeah. Jimmy D is defending his internet service provider. Watched a live chat on the SIG 365. What is a SIG 365? Has to be on your end. That's right. It wouldn't surprise me if it was on my end, Jimmy. We got, way out here in the sticks, we don't get good service. And it gets worse when it rains, and it is raining right now. So it could very well be us. Mariah, are you going to come say hello? Counting is bragging. Ruger GP 100 357. Yeah, Speedy, when I went looking, when I got my Security 6, it was the GP 100 I was looking for. I had a Ruger Blackhawk in 41 Magnum, which I love, but it was a 6-inch barrel and it just wasn't practical, and it was my only revolver, and I needed to turn it into something I could use. So I started, this was back before Facebook banned all the gun groups. And I got on a Facebook gun group and put it out there, and the next thing I know, I had a Glock, I want to say 45, I don't know, it was a 45 GAP stub compact. He gave me like 100 rounds with it, and I didn't like it. It was too small, and I didn't want that gap anyway, because one of the whole reasons I was getting rid of the Blackhawk was because it was in that 41 mag, which you just couldn't find the ammo that much, and it was expensive, although reloading would have helped. So I turned around and traded that, and I got a SIG SAR 222 and 40 cal with a Black Hawk holster. It was a neat little gun. I liked it, but I have let's see if I can show you. You can see that scar there. I got my boyfriend broke up with me, and no, I'm kidding. I was at work, and I cut my wrist on a piece of metal, and it wasn't too bad over here on this side, but when it got back down around this side, it got kind of deep and actually exposed the artery there, and the artery was exposed for like probably a quarter inch, and you could just see it. There was nothing but I don't know how the artery didn't get cut. There was nothing protecting it, but you could see it pulsing. And so since that injury, which was about 3 years ago now, I don't have real good control of the bottom two fingers on that hand, and so I end up limp wristing. God, I'm so thankful Texan isn't on tonight. I would never hear the end of this. I end up limp wristing semi-autos, and I'll get jams. I'll usually get a jam or two per magazine if I'm not like focused solely on a grip with those bottom two fingers. So I needed a revolver, and I like revolvers. I mean, the truth be told, I'd have gone for the revolver anyway. I'm a revolver guy. So anyway, I had that SIG, and I was going to stick with it, but it was just, jamming on me too much because of my limp wristing problem. So I went out and to get a Ruger GP 100, and a guy offered me a 6-inch barrel, which I didn't want a 6-inch barrel. And then this guy came up with this 4-inch Security 6. that I fell in love with. I hadn't even thought about a Security 6. I didn't think one would have been available, but it was, and I did the trade, and I just love the revolver. I'm going to do a video on it soon. It's a great revolver. But we got that poor girl's on here. You got more screen time than I do right now, baby. That's Madeline. She was in another video a while ago. We were, that's the 10 cow wife. If you've seen that video, that's the girl. Don't be trying to trade me no goats for that girl. She's gonna be expensive. And then there's another one over there who she's a little young for us to be introducing yet, but she'll probably be a 10 cow wife too when the time comes. I don't know. We'll see. All right. So what else we got? Got the Potato 2000 camera on this stream. That Potato 2000. I have no idea what that means, Sugar Bear. Yeah, the 40 Bo, the 41 mag is just an amazing round. I loved it. But it was just too expensive, and I couldn't find it all the time. I'd have to go to gun shows to find it, and then I'd have to buy it from boutiques, and I'm pulling this from memory because it's been a few years now, but I don't remember finding it for less than 75 cents a round ever. Hey, Rob, when do we start seeds for the garden? Mariah's actually already started some. I don't know how the light is, but she's got some started already. What do we got here? We got broccoli. These are probably all going to be broccoli. Oh, there's some cauliflower. Cauliflower? Huh. Maybe that's collards. I can't imagine she's planted cauliflower. So yeah, we've already started. Normally our grow season here for the cold weather crops is late February. We might hold off a little bit this year, just because I'm expecting good big things out of the solar grand minimum. I'm usually a little ahead of those sorts of things though, so it may not be this year that we start seeing later frost, but I'm expecting going forward there'll be later frost. So we will probably wait till March this year to start putting too much in. So the seeds are already started. I'm going to try tobacco again this year. I need to get my tobacco seeds started. Mariah really does most of the technical stuff with the garden, and I haul the manure, and I'll do some of the initial planning that's difficult work. But after that, I'm kind of hands off, and she handles most of it. So if she would be willing to come out here and talk to us, we would get a better answer from her. It's been a hard day. So there we go. We've got some seeds started already. What'd I miss? One more month for North Kentucky. Oh, Bo's got a Smith & Wesson Model 57. Rob Kramer, ever try sativa? Is that stevia? Is that what you were? That's probably autocorrect. I have not tried stevia. Sugar Bear had a bee die off in the fall up in here in Pennsylvania. What part of Pennsylvania, Sugar Bear? 40 cal, 45 cal is the way to go. I'm gonna make people angry at me in North Kentucky. I am not a huge fan of the 45 ACP. It's not a bad round. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying it, it's not effective. I just, I tend to be the small, fast guy, when it comes to bullets. I like the 5.56, but actually I'm lying. That's not true. I love the 30-06 too, and that's the opposite of small and fast. If I had to choose the semi-auto pistol to carry, it probably wouldn't be chambered in 45, just because, the 9mm is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. I'm not a big fan of the 9mm either. It's probably good I can't see the comments right now. But, everyone's got a 9mm. There's 9mm everywhere. You'll never run out of 9mm. 45, I know, has been like that in the past, but is not anymore so much. And the 45 is amazing from 0 to 25 yards. But are you on the Wi-Fi? Is Jimmy D gonna be yelling at me about buffering issues again here in a minute? No. There's 2 more daughters. These will also probably be 10 cow wives. We have a lot of beautiful young women around here. The boys are all sleeping at the moment. The ones that are here. I'll say this on live chat. My oldest son, you guys have met him. He was in a video. He has gotten appointed to the Naval Academy by his congressman. Not accepted yet. He's still got a hoop to go through. But he has been, now I'm going to watch the comments just so I can read everyone's congratulations. Yay, me! But we're very, very, very proud of him. He has been nominated by his congressman for the Naval Academy, and we're very excited. We have military service every generation, every man going all as far back as we know. We don't have a single officer. We've all been enlisted. So we're real excited that we might have us an officer here at some point in the near future. I've missed all kinds of. Oh, there we go. Yeah, Jessica, thank you. Rob, woohoo! Free America, woohoo! You say woohoo, Free America. You might have yourself a young officer one day. You might be blaming on me. Oh no, he'd be a great one though. I mean, this is a fine young man. He will be a credit to the naval service. We're very, very, very excited. I'm a Marine. My brother's in the Navy. My father was in the Navy. His father was in the Navy. His father was in the Army. His father was in the Army. I believe his father was in the Army. We don't have any information after that, but the very first of our line to come to the country was a captain, and I'm pretty sure he wasn't a naval captain. That sounds a little high achieving for us. And his son was a sergeant major who fought at the Battle of New Orleans in 1812. So it goes back a long way for us. So we're real proud that our oldest boy looks like he's going to continue the tradition in such of a neat way. I'm not mean, Zach. I know, Jimmy. Music Well was Navy. Sugar Bear's uncles were officers, but Sugar Bear enlisted. Mark Beasley was a 45 guy for years and recently went with a 9mm all Glocks. The weight difference is substantial, means a lot at the end of the day, and congrats, thank you. The other problem I have with the 45, and I should have said this, is I have these stubby little hands. They're really good for gripping shovels, but they're just a little short for the magazine well on the 1911. I've never been comfortable with it. It does look like we're buffering weird. Is it still bad on your end, Jimmy? Because I'm looking at it here and it doesn't look that good. Music Wells' dad and grandfather all Navy. No destruction without creation. 9x18 and 7.62 Tokarev. Okay, so first off, I am completely biased against all things Soviet. I mean, if it's comm block, I have a visceral dislike from it to begin with. I've never heard any wonderful things about the Tokarev. I don't know anything bad about it. The 9x18 is a fine round, nothing wrong with it. Just not as common as the 9x19, what we call the 9mm Parabellum. Fine round. I mean, you're certainly not underarmed with it, but yeah, you don't have the choices in firearms. You don't have. Here's the big problem with like the Tokarev. Well, not so much maybe the Tokarev, but the 9x18 is you don't really have a great option to pair a carbine with your pistol, which to me, being able to have a interchangeability between a carbine with magazines and ammunition and a pistol to me is a huge deal. I think that's you have the 5.7mm, which maybe isn't common enough yet, but is a great option for that. And then the 9mm, you've got all kinds of options where you can have the 9mm Parabellum and pistol and a carbine that takes the same magazines. Is Montana Woods Runner? Gotta go, Montana. Thanks for stopping in, brother. Sorry it was so slow getting going. Hawkeye 45. I'm a commie hater also. Oh, David's getting some buffering. I'm sorry, guys. North Kentucky, 410-45 Colt. Love it. Interesting combination. They make the judge in a circuit judge. It's a pistol, not a pistol. It's a rifle configuration, but with the revolver. Uh, I think that's one of the most interesting homestead guns out there. Very interesting as a for you one gun types. Uh, so I love that. You must catch a lot of crap from all those sailors. Jimmy, you have no idea. I was so happy when my one brother joined the Air Force because I figured it'd take all the heat off of me. Because I got another brother in the Army. There was four of us brothers, and we joined all four branches. And I used to just take, and the Air Force brother joined the last. And I thought for sure it was going to take some heat off of me, but turns out he was everyone's favorite anyway, so no matter what he did, he was going to be fine. I still took all the heat. But, oh well. Oh man, it looks terrible now. I wonder if I can pause this. Yeah. All right, I've paused one of these displays here, guys. So tell me if it paused the whole stream. Tell us what is something difficult like Zionism and what it is. Yikes. Hey, Corey, it's good to see you too. Ever try growing sugar beets? Not yet, Rob. We're going to try.
I've grown beets a lot.
Sugar beets?
Same thing.
Okay, so my beautiful bride has informed us that we have grown beets a lot. I knew we grew beets. I thought sugar beets were different. Zionism. All right, Mountain Truth. Let's attack Zionism real quick since we want to go controversial. Zionism is it actually was not a pejorative for a long time, and I don't remember all the dates on this, but it seems like starting in like the 1850s, there was a movement among Jews worldwide to get a homeland established in Israel, and so there was this movement to try to get Jews to move back to Israel, to reinstitute a homeland under the Ottoman Turks at the time, and that was called Zionism, and they were called Zionists, and it wasn't that big of a negative thing. Since then, with I fall very firmly on the Israel side of this whole debate. Since then, people who are anti-Israel or I won't use the term anti-Semitic because that's loaded. But people who fall underneath that have turned Zionism into a pejorative, into an insult. I personally, I don't see, all the conspiracy theories behind, modern Jewism or Judaism. There's good Jews, there's bad Jews, there's good Christians, there's bad Christians. I think the Jewish homeland in Israel is I don't know if it was a great idea, but I know why they did it, and I think they have every right to be there. I just think, boy, they bit off a big task, but I have a standing. I'm about to lose a bunch of people here. Look, the Jews are God's problem. What we call Jews are the tribe of Judah, parts of Benjamin and parts of Levi. They're the only official parts of the house of Israel that we know about right now. And they're God's chosen people, and he says he blesses those who blesses them, and he curses those who curses them. So I will never do anything but bless the Jews. And if God wants to handle them his own way, that is his problem, not mine. The Jews are not my concern. Now, since we went here, let's go full on weirdo. Like many of the people who subscribe to Hebrew roots and Old Testament type stuff, I do believe the other tribes at some point are going to start getting identified. When we read the book of Revelation and all that end time stuff, we see the 12 tribes have reemerged. So I believe that we will start finding the rest of those tribes, and the Jews will take their place inside greater Israel, historic Israel, the family of Israel, the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But for now, the Jews are who we have, and that that was so God could keep his promise to King David that there would always be one of his descendants available to be king. Uh, and that's why God has kept the Jews whole this whole time, and he will. The Jews aren't going anywhere. So there you go. There, Zionism is has become a pejorative to well, man, the Jews get blamed for a lot. You know, let me check some of these comments and see just exactly where I'm at with you guys. All right, passion on breaking news. Sugar Bear's grandfather left me a Stevens 410 bolt action. It's amazing how it patterns for a 410, but big difference from the Mossberg pumps. I really like the pumps. That action is so. I want a rifle and I want a 357 Magnum pump. Taurus made one called the Lightning for a while, and I want one. All right, tried growing kiwi. Corey, I have not tried growing kiwi. I would be shocked if it worked here though, but I don't know for a fact that it won't. Burden says there's 150. By the way, I love that name Burden. You know, it just sounds like a man's bearing burdens. You know, especially because he's got back troubles. He's been bearing burdens for a long time. It's very prosaic. Okay, 150 miles between Jimmy and I. It's getting better there and worse here. I suspect weather. Music Well's got a passing on breaking news. Is that a passion for breaking news, Music Well, or you're just not interested in it? Come on now, who runs the world? Mountain Truth One wants to know who runs the world. Mountain Truth, if you, I'm not sure where I am on this. Sometimes I see conspiracy theories, and I think there's a hand running everything. Other times I shake my head and say there's no way anyone could possibly think that if there is a conspiracy theory trying to run the world, that they're anything remotely resembling competent. But obviously that gets into some more religious stuff if you want to talk about who I really think runs the world, and we've already gone as religious as I want to get tonight. Rob Kramer still has Nazi currency. My grandfather left me. He was first into Italy with the Rainbow Division with the army and then became a POW for 1 year. Wow. I bet there were a lot of good stories out of that, Rob. North Kentucky busted his leg at reception in Fort Benning. Shortest term ever. That's pretty good. Sugar Bear is anti-synagogue of Satan. Well, that is not that is not restricted to just the Jews there, Sugar Bear. Mountain Truth, it's not about Israel. You know, Mountain Truth, it has become about Israel. It maybe wasn't always about Israel, but it is now. You know, that's just where it's all focused. You know, they want to wipe Israel off the map. You know, the other thing is you got to look at the Jews and see who their enemies have always been and who their enemies are today. You know, at some point the enemy of my enemy is my friend. You know, who are the Jews' enemies and why? And why would we want to side with those folks? I don't. But like I said, if there, you know, there's been bad Jews just like there's been bad Christians. I know a lot of the communist movement was done by some Jews and whatnot, and but then there's been some really great Jews. You know, I mean, look at I'm going to try to come up with a list off the top of my head. I'm not Jewish, by the way, folks. I end up talking about Catholics a lot too, pretty admiringly, and I'm not even anything remotely resembling Catholic either. But the apple guy on his head, Isaac Newton, you know. Christopher Columbus, a lot of folks don't know this. Christopher Columbus was a Jew. His parents converted. He was a first-generation Christian. It goes on and on and on. The Jews have had an amazing impact on the world. Destruction without creation. The National Socialist Movement was the primary reason behind Israel's existence via the Havara Agreement. That is correct. Sugar Bear, regular Jews wanted no part of that embassy move. That's neither here. I mean, it's an interesting topic, but I mean, I could see, or at least they acted that way. You really, what don't I know, Mountain Truth? Hello, Cammy's Tiny House Living. How you doing? Okay, what were you talking about here, David? Oh, shucks. I haven't seen anything about a U.S. chopper targeting Iraqis. However, 7 people were killed Wednesday when a Marine helicopter crashed outside Baghdad. I hadn't heard that. I'm sorry to hear that. Sugar Bear's talking about collecting the DNA from the whole world. I think you're probably talking about the tribes, and I think you're right. Sugar Bear, be grafted in while you still can. I think you're talking about conversion. Speedy says we're 100% right on. I don't, that's too far back. I'm not sure what we're talking about. All right, Mountain Truth. Nobody in this chat knows anything about this. Jews are not Zionists. They are Khazars. Fine. North Kentucky. History gets really amazing when you back up to the Sumerians. I'll have to look into that. I'm not sure what you were talking, what you mean there, but I say this. I was talking to my father-in-law today, and he reminded me of something. Noah and the flood, since we're talking about North Kentucky and the ark, Noah was still alive when Abraham was alive. They were contemporaries. Noah was at the end of his life. Abraham would have been about 75, I think, is what we figured out when Noah died. That's a period we have historical records from. It was interesting to me to kind of realize that. Sugar Bear, those who call themselves Jews but are not. Here's the problem with this, Sugar Bear. It's really hard to talk about this intelligently, publicly, and in sort of a disjointed medium like this. When you start talking about Jews and conversions and Christians and the synagogue of Satan and all this stuff, you got to be real careful, because like I said, there's been a lot of really bad, evil people who have started from that same place and gone some really destructive, 6 million dead Jews. I just don't want to be associated with Nazis, So you got to be real careful when you're talking about this stuff. You don't want to do what some people on the right do, which is idolize the Jews and turn them into something they're not. At the same time, you don't want to go the other way and demonize them. And it's hard to do either and talk about the topic honestly in a public forum. Jews are people, and they occupy a unique place spiritually and historically, and that's pretty much where I leave it in the public for you, and you accept to say that I will always back up Israel, and like I said, I will always bless the Jews because I want God's blessings. All right, Corey Smith, how about a 357? Shaking my head. A 357 is what I carry. Love 357. I think it's one of the best all around. Texan's not on here. Try this on for size. Now, some of you guys might not be interested in ballistics and everything, but the 357 fires, generally, the most common bullet is a 125 grain bullet, which coming out of a 4-inch revolver is normally in the 13 to 1400 feet per second range. You put it in a 20-inch barrel, and that 125 grain bullet now is moving about 2100 feet per second. If you're familiar with the ballistics on the AK-47 round, the 7.62 by 39, it's a 125 grain bullet moving at about 2300 feet per second. So you put a 357 Magnum in a rifle-length barrel, and suddenly you have a bullet with ballistics very, very similar at the muzzle. Now, at the muzzle to the 7.62 by 39, an intermediate cartridge that most people say is incredibly effective at intermediate ranges. Now, the bullets are shaped different. The 357 is actually a wider bullet. The 7.62 is a 30 caliber, and 357 is actually, I think it's a 327 caliber, the actual bullet, but it's wider, and it's shaped different, so it doesn't retain its energy as well downrange. So it's not like the same bullet or the same power. You can't even use that term when you're comparing bullets anyway. But it has similar ballistics at the muzzle, and out to about 100 yards, it has real similar energy. The 357, in my opinion, is just an amazing round all the way around. I love it. Lucky Luciano, it says to turn up the volume. I will do the best I can, Lucky. Does that, that's the volume on the phone. I have no idea if that helped the feed or not. Mountain Truth says you should be sure evidence is everywhere. You see, I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure where you're coming from on this, Mountain. So I don't even really know how to engage you on it. Something grows wild in southeast Texas. I don't know what that is. Free America. Okay, so Khazar. I'm not sure what the Khazar thing is all about, Mountain Truth. I'm afraid you're not going to get satisfaction from me on this topic. Like I said, I believe the Jews we know are the Jews from the New Testament. They are the remnants of the tribe of Judah, portions of Benjamin and Levi. I believe that. And all of my beliefs about the Jews and that sort of stuff are based on that idea that they are the historical Jews, that they are the descendants of Judah. Jessica, I tried turning up the volume. I hope that got it. The youngest boy. How many kids do y'all have, Jessica? And I didn't see, did you answer? Are you guys going to be at the retreat? Oh, man, I've missed all kinds of stuff. James and Tammy Faye Baker, I have no idea what that is. Although I went, when I was a kid, I visited their thing in North Carolina. My grandmother, not the one who just died, a different grandmother who's still with us, was real involved up there and volunteered and worked in their outside of Charlotte. It was a pretty neat place. I got to see him a couple times. Never met him, but the state of the Israel is not the Israel of old. That is true. Corey Smith, are you a follower of the way then? Which way is that? I'm the follower of a way, but there's a lot of different ways people follow. Here's what we believe, Corey. I don't like the term Christian because it's become to mean very little or so much that it's meaningless. But we do try to follow the totality of Scripture from Old Testament and New Testament combined, and frequently that means that we identify with people who might call themselves not so much Torah observant. Folks who call themselves Torah observant observe a lot of traditions, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we try to cut out all the traditions, Christian traditions, Jewish traditions, and just go straight with what's in Scripture. So, like, you know, we don't celebrate Hanukkah, that sort of stuff. But then also we don't celebrate Easter. So we celebrate over. We do a very, very limited Christmas. We don't believe that we can institute holy days. Only God can institute holy days, and He instituted them in Scripture. So we are Christians in that we believe in Christ and His sacrifice and our need for redemption and salvation from our sins. But we also incorporate the Old Testament, the portions that weren't undone in the New Testament, and that's very limited, by the way. There's only basically just the cleanliness laws were the only thing that were done away with in the New Testament. I don't know if that explains it at all, but all right, I'm going to jump a bunch of stuff just because I'm way behind, and I don't. Although I would love to know what Jimmy D was saying about William Tell. That. Oh, apple on his head. Yeah, no, it was Isaac Newton, Jimmy. But you're right. I didn't think it was actually William Tell's son who had his apple on his head, and William Tell was shooting the apple off his head. There was no Holocaust. I'm sorry, Mountain Truth One. I can't go there. There was a Holocaust. Some people I greatly admire were caught up into it. One of the most significant Christians of the last century was a woman named Corrie ten Boom. There was definitely a Holocaust. I'm sorry, sir. I would hate to lose you as a viewer, but I can't go there. There was a Holocaust, and it was 6 million Jews and 6 million other folks, and they were killed by the Nazis. Rob is saying the same thing. And by the way, Mountain Truth, I mean, we enjoy your comments. I'm not trying to get you to go away or anything. I'm just telling you, I believe there was a Holocaust, and I don't think there's any way around it. They found the mass graves, they found the ovens, they found the gas chambers, they found mountains of shoes. You know, they've got the sworn testimony of lots of Nazi officers and prison guards, and they kept meticulous records about all this stuff, and the railroad cars going back and forth to these places. And I'm sorry, there was a Holocaust. Okay. Edward Leonard saying the same thing. Sugar Bear, I'm sorry, I just haven't been able to keep up with all the comments. I'm behind, I'm sorry. It looks like Speedy left us. Corey's talking about, oh, Corey, if you're in East Tennessee, Lord, you're not far from us at all. There is a group that we're involved in peripherally that is meeting here in March. It's not, I'm not in the leadership or anything, but there's a lot of folks who fall into this same camp, who's stripping everything out of their faith. If you're interested, give me shoot me an email at therevoltingman@outlook.com, and I'll get you the details, or at least where you can go to look to see if you want to be involved. It's not gonna. I think the cost is going to be fairly affordable. Hey, Speedy's leaving us. Good night, Speedy. All right. According to Zaveda, the U.S. military conducted an operation to capture terrorists when the crew of a combat helicopter discovered a cluster of people, some of whom were armed. The priesthood was lost in 79 A.D. Most Jews are Khazars, those who claim to be, who are not. Actually, Mountain Truth, the priesthood kind of got lost a lot earlier than that. It was like 185 B.C. Some of the descendants of Maccabees, Josephus Maccabee, I can't remember his first name, but the Maccabees guy, you know, they did a revolt, and a few generations later, some of his descendants started appointing chief priests who were not of the line of Aaron. And then that guy named Antiochus Epiphanes IV came down from Syria, I believe, and destroyed the temple again, and put up a statue of Zeus and sacrificed a pig. This isn't Bible stuff. This is historical stuff. And a lot of Jews call that the abomination of desolations. Those of us many of us don't believe Antiochus Epiphanes was the abomination of desolations. He was the symbol of it. The abomination of desolations were when they started appointing high priests who were not of the line of Aaron. That was what we would say the abomination of desolations was. That all gets real deep and thick. Why not celebrate Easter, John? So this gets a little difficult too, but God said he instituted Passover for all time as a covenant with his people. That didn't get undone in the New Testament with Christ. The modern church has done away with the Passover and adopted Easter instead. And so we believe Easter is, I don't say an abomination. I'm not saying you're going to hell if you celebrate Easter. But you know, the big problem with the modern church is people trying to do God's things our way, get God results with our own personal methods. And so for us, Easter is not. That's a bridge too far. The government doesn't get to declare a day holy. Only God declares days holy, and God chose Passover, and he told us how to observe it. He didn't tell us anything about Easter. And Easter is completely removed from Christ's death and resurrection, which, unlike Christmas, we can actually point to the day. You know, we know what days that happened every year. We can say this is the day within reason. So for us, Easter, you know, there's nothing wrong with hunting eggs. There's nothing wrong with eating a bunch of candy. There's nothing wrong with picking any one day at any time and using that day to focus on any spiritual issue. But for us, Easter is just not we're not willing to go there. North Kentucky Homesteading says Yeshua with a question mark. We don't. A lot of the people who believe like us use the Jewish terms or what they believe the Jewish terms were. We don't. God confused the languages himself back in the Old Testament. There's nothing wrong with using the Jewish terms, but there's nothing wrong with using the English terms either. And so we, just for clarity's sake, we use the English terms for now. We've caught ourselves gravitating towards things like shalom and whatnot. All right, Mountain Truth's talking about John Ishtar. Not sure about that is. You're not aware of the facts. Easter is Ishtar. I'm having a hard time keeping up with these comments. I'm sorry. Okay, Corey Williams says, hello, peoples. Is this William Stanley? No, it must not be. There's no... And Jimmy's still getting buffering. I'm sorry, Jimmy. Hey, no one's on Wi-Fi, are they? Okay. You are not aware of the fact. All right, just pop it in tonight. Hope all's well. Hey, Oxjaw, if you're still here, I'm sorry. I just saw that. Sugar Bear thinks there was a Holocaust. I just think the numbers were embellished. Mountain Truth says there was never an order for genocide. The evidence speaks for itself. I agree. It does speak for itself. There was a Holocaust. John Last says, seems you're wrapped up in a day of the month as opposed to the significance of the death of our Savior. If you're talking to us about that, John, I would say no. I don't think we're wrapped up in the day so much. Just that celebration, Passover, was commanded as a covenant for all times. So, am I saying that you can't be a Christian if you don't celebrate Passover? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There's only one condition for salvation, and it's belief on the Lord Jesus Christ, and there's no other condition put on it. And if you meet that criteria, then I am required to extend the hand of fellowship. So no, we don't get hung up on that at all. Well, I shouldn't say we don't get hung up on it at all, but it's not like this huge deal where we refuse to. You're a heretic if you don't celebrate the Passover. We just believe that we should, when God definitely takes a stand on things, we should try to incorporate that in our lives. And he definitely took a stand on Passover. All righty. Corey's going to drop us an email. Craig Heinbach says, Judas Maccabees. Thank you, Craig. I appreciate that, sir. John Last, Easter is a Christian celebration, not something from the Old Testament. Matches with Passover, but this is not the same at all. It doesn't match with Passover. Now, the government picks Easter, and it doesn't line up with Passover at all. Occasionally, the two will meet. And again, Passover is not something you have to celebrate, but it's something we do celebrate. All right, Fall of Berlin. I'm going to skip that. Sugar Bear said you don't have to explain yourself. I appreciate that, Sugar Bear, but it's an interesting topic to me, and I like talking about it. Okay, Mountain Truth. Now, we can agree about this. Israel is all over the world. The Jews are not the totality of Israel. They are the tribe of Judah. But if God's word's true at all, then the Jews are definitely the tribe of Judah. And if they're not, then he's a liar, because he said that David would always have a descendant available to be king. So that means the tribe of Judah would have to be known to us. And I just believe that with all my heart. Yes, do I believe there's other Israelites in other places? Yes. And some of them I believe they found. One of them is a tribe in South Africa, very, very African, very black, almost definitely the descendants of Aaron from the tribe of Levi. And I think there's DNA evidence that sort of backs that up. Rat Route's here. How you doing, Rat Route? All right. No destruction without creation. This is one of my pet peeves, brother. Almost all modern holidays are based on early polytheistic celebrations. I struggle with that mightily. I don't find that to be true most of the time. But I know that a lot of people make that claims. But when I research their claims, most of their claims tend to fall apart real quick. Rat Route says, my father-in-law was part of the death camp liberators and saw the bodies firsthand. It really happened. And there were so many people who've had firsthand experience of this that, yeah, I agree. It happened. Hey, Mountain Truth. They're not difficult questions. I just think you're on the wrong side of them. That's all. I don't think you understand what I said. I may not understand what you said, Mountain Truth, and if I don't, I apologize. Craig, how's the root cellar coming along? So I got out there yesterday. No, it wasn't yesterday. It was the day before yesterday. Mariah's watching me, and I'm not sure what that look means. And so I filled in, if you watch the video, I filled in the back corner that was low. There was a lot of water in it. I tried to drain most of it out. So I've got it filled in, and I'm just waiting for it to dry a little bit. I'm probably gonna, it's raining right now, so I won't probably get out there tomorrow. But Monday I was supposed to get back out there and tamp it down and fill it in again. But we are very, very close to framing up for the footer. We're gonna pour a footer, and we're getting close. We're getting close in on that. All right, Kimmy's 991. I am new to your beliefs. I think I agree with most, but I have a hard time swallowing men having more than wife. Do all people in this faith believe this way? Bum, bum, bum. Oh, we are going to hit all the hard stuff. Can't we talk about the Holocaust some more? No, look. No, a lot of people, Kimmy, are coming into this understanding that in the West, we have added a lot of stuff to the faith and stripped a lot of stuff out. Marriage is a very, very deeply spiritual thing, and it has deeply spiritual implications. And we try to take everything literal, and so that means that there's 3 acceptable forms of being for Christians or people or Christ followers. Celibacy, like the Apostle Paul. You're a beautiful bride. She doesn't have her head covering on. You don't see that too often. You won't see her uncovered a lot. So celibate, like the Apostle Paul and like Christ himself. Monogamous, one man, one wife marriages, which will always be the norm. And then there's polygamy, or what we call polygyny. Polygamy is an umbrella term that can mean either polygyny, which is one man with multiple wives, or polyandry, one woman with multiple husbands. We believe that polygyny is acceptable in God's eyes. It's never going to be common. In the most polygynous of societies, only about 15% of marriages end up being polygynous. We don't believe it's required. We reject the Mormons' take on it of celestial marriage and running off of boys and all this stuff. But we do believe it is acceptable, an acceptable form of marriage. Not all Hebraic roots, Torah observant types do. But we do. We believe it is acceptable. We know we're monogamous. We're likely to remain monogamous. Just from a resources standpoint, although it is my dream to be, the patriarch of my own tribe and establish a nation and, Father Abraham and all that stuff. But the truth of the matter is it takes a lot of resources, and you have to be a high status male to pull that off. And I'm not a high status male with a lot of resources. But we know people who do this and do it successfully, and they have good marriages and beautiful children, and they're happy. And so it is possible. Where were we at? We lose a lot of people when we talk about that. Where did Kimmy go? All right. If you have a corrugated pipe and a backhoe with slits, try a pump in the ground to get rid of the surrounding water. Thank you, Rob. Mountain Truth says, Kimmy's they don't, and he's right. Not everyone does. But there's a significant and growing number of us who do accept, not just that polygyny is acceptable, but that a patriarchal structure is required, even in monogamous marriage. Your monogamous marriage needs to be structured so that, it would fall in line with the polygynous marriage with what did I miss?
Nothing.
Oh, you're covering your head? Oh, David says hi. Oh, Obama told us that his grandfather single-handedly stormed Auschwitz and freed the Jews. I hadn't heard that one, David. Mountain Truth, I have put my words in your mouth and have covered you with the shadow of my hand to establish the heavens, to found the earth, and to say to Zion, you are my people. Who the hell would want more than one wife? That is the comment we hear the most about that from men. They're like, well, who would want more than one? I think that's more of an indictment of modern marriage than ancient marriage, but we hear that a lot. Mein Groupvater was part of the Dutch resistance movement, unfortunately. Unfortunately? All right. No, Jessica not covered. Wow. Well, and the thing about that, Jessica, is it's only required, during prayer and prophecy, and then I think Mariah chooses to. I ask her to fulfill that. Anytime we're in a religious setting, she'll be covered. And then I think she goes a step further. Anytime she's in public, when I'm not around, she generally will cover. And I think that generally turns into covering most of the time, I think.
It's funny because I don't really cover a whole lot on the Sabbath because you're at home and we're together and
Yeah.
it just doesn't happen.
So
Go
the covering thing is really interesting, and it was actually one of the things that brought us into a lot of this stuff. But it's not as cut and dried as sometimes they make it out to be. Why am I going to the Ukraine? I don't know. Why are you going to the Ukraine, Rod? I understand there's a lot of beautiful women there. Where were we at? Kimmy says, thanks for clarifying. Thank you, Kimmy. If you're really interested in that topic of biblical families, Kimmy, the website I always suggest, and the focus for this website is polygyny, but they also talk about the patriarchy and the male headship as well, and most of the people on there are monogamous. It's biblicalfamilies.org. A lot of really good information on there, a lot of the background and the scriptures and whatnot. Okay, Mountain Truth 1, sure, they like to call themselves Jews. I don't believe them. The synagogue of Satan does exist. Yes, it does exist. It's not the entirety of Jewry, though. Free gets a cookie. Jayus, hey, here for discussion if needed. What are you discussing, Juice? I think you want to talk about the Hebrew root stuff, if I'm not mistaken. Friends, wife went on about religion. I looked at her, said, "Let your women be silent in the church." This is true. This is something we believe. Well, where'd it go? She never goes off on religion with me again. It is hard enough to find a decent woman in this society. It is very hard to find a decent woman in this society, and they are called to be silent in the churches. Why are you going? Oh, is that why you're going to Ukraine, to get a decent woman? Is that what? Oh, Mariah's going to plug us up. Okay. Jessica's talking about the head covering. All the videos,
yeah.
Most of the time she is covered, but
I didn't really want to get on here right now because of that. I felt a little shy.
But she doesn't cover, like wake up in the morning, put her head covering on. Women are free to be uncovered a lot of times, actually. Jews had a 9-hour training day. Oh, shucks. Okay, John last. The Last Supper was the Feast of Passover, yes. So Passion and Crucifixion do respond roughly, right? Now, yeah, so the crucifixion and the Passion do correspond to Passover. It's Easter that doesn't correspond to Passover. Hey, Craig. So the meet and greet coming up in Macon, we're going to meet at the, I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. I don't think Antifa is really going to show up. It'd be fun if they did. We're going to meet at the Golden Corral off of I-475 in Macon. There's only one. It's right off the highway. It should be easy access to anyone who can get to Macon. If you have easy access to Macon, you'll have easy access to the Golden Corral. We're going to meet at noon. Humble Homestead's going to be there. We've had probably 10 to 15 people RSVP. We're expecting it to be a good time. It's not going to be any big deal. There's not going to be a big presentation. We're just going to break bread together, and talk and maybe form some connections and some relationships. Destruction Without Creation says there are next to no valuable women in the Western world. There are precious few. North Kentucky likes his wife. I'm trying really hard to be good. Sorry to bring up complex on a live. Just stuff I have learned that concerns in a big way. Well, we appreciate it, Mount Truth. It was definitely an interesting conversation. No one was bored during that, so thank you. Sheep Gamer 84. Why are YouTube stupid? It wouldn't let me log on, Sheep. I had this thing scheduled for weeks, and when I tried to log on, it wouldn't let me log on. I had to abandon the scheduled event and just start a whole new one for some reason. It could possibly be my stupidity. Could just be that Zach is stupid, but I was angry and frustrated, and nothing angers me quite as much as technology that won't cooperate. Rob, why am I going? I live in a liberal state, Mount Baker, on a few acres, and grew up with Russian people. They tell me go over there. They cook, they garden, and people I know stay married. We had an exchange student over here when my brothers were younger, who was from the Ukraine. He's a nice guy. Do you believe that Jesus Christ is our God? Yes, Jerry. Salvation is only through Christ. I don't like the word Trinity, but I believe in what you mean when you say Trinity. I think that word Trinity gets in people's way a lot. But we believe that there's God the Father, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit, and that salvation is only through Christ. And I can, with a clear conscience, say the Apostles' Creed. Just the Apostle. I don't know what these girls are laughing at, but they're having a good time back there. So yes, Jerry, we do believe that Jesus Christ is God. David's encouraging Mariah again. You guys need a Logitech 1080p camera really bad. All right, Matt, I will take that under advisement. I do not know what we need. We try to make this work with Mariah's iPhone 5. Marry a good woman, you have a good life. A bad one, you become a philosopher. Funny, Rob. David, you see how he went further from us. What? I don't know what you're talking about, Jimmy D. I'd never get far from you guys. I keep trying to get you to come closer, and you won't do it. Ruby Roo is here. How are we? We're doing good, Ruby. How are you? Todd Galbraith doesn't have a high opinion of Ukrainian marriages. Edward says, I believe there is one God. That religion has been broken up to create separation, just as language was confused at Babel. The meet and greet date, I didn't say it. It's March 10th? It's that Saturday. I believe it's March 10th. For some, maybe March, I'm thinking it might be March 12th. Let me see if I can get a calendar up. I'm not going look, the calendar changed the color on the calendar's not wanting to pull up, and it's changing the color on the feed. So, there it goes. No. Okay. So March 10th. It's a Saturday, March 10th. 12 o'clock, Golden Corral in Macon off of I-475. And there's only one Golden Corral in Macon, I think. Hey, it's Kevin. How you doing, Kevin? Did you get back from church? Separation is the word of the day in this world. Yes, it is. Macon, Missouri. I would only have to drive 70 miles. You keep saying you're coming down here anyway, Burden. I don't know what you're waiting for. Todd, depends on how they raise the west to the east. I know made a few women. Whoa, wait. Destruction without creation. They're going to start shipping in SKSs again? I hadn't heard that. I love talking about SK rifles. The worst trigger pull I have ever experienced on a weapon, the absolute worst trigger pull I've ever experienced on a weapon was on an SKS. But I'd rather have an SKS than an AK-47, so. Ruby Roo's going out and doing some NBC training next week. That's miserable stuff. At least it's in the winter, though. It's worse in the North Kentucky homesteading. Do you guys eat pork? No. Here we go. Christ said that he not one jot and tittle of the law would pass away till all had been fulfilled. We take that to mean on an individual basis. There's individual things that have been fulfilled. We do believe that the cleanliness laws were fulfilled. That's all that was fulfilled. And technically, the dietary laws fall underneath the cleanliness laws. However, God's words literally define reality. And if God says something, like, he spoke and the world came into creation. So if God says don't eat pork, even if the cleanliness laws have been fulfilled, there's still going to be a blessing for not eating pork. So we obey the literal laws that are written about that stuff in the Old Testament. So we don't eat pork, we don't eat shellfish, we don't eat rabbit, unfortunately. And as homesteaders, not having access to pigs and rabbits is very daunting. That is an act of faith to give up the two best animals for meat production on a homestead. But no, we don't eat pork. Hey, Jerry, what do you know to be true about a woman marrying again after her husband passes away? A widow is free to marry whoever she chooses. That's scripture. She doesn't have to go to her father. A widow is free to marry whoever she chooses. Funds, back surgery, something always goes wrong. I know. Layton Farms, I love SKS. You know, I liked the SKS back when you could buy it for $79. At $79, the SKS is an amazing rifle. At $600, I am less enthusiastic about it. Boski has been to Kiev twice on business. Beware pickpockets worse than New York City, and women go after Americans worse than rabid dogs. Well, suddenly a bunch of guys are about to load up to go to Kiev. Destruction Without Creation says the worst thing about the comm block weapons is the trigger, notably the Nagant revolver. I have never even handled a Nagant revolver, but I would like to. Well, there goes my invite for some kick-ass barbecue. You know, you're invited. We actually, just a few years ago, we raised out a pig and we put it in a pit and everything right before we made that change in our lives, and it was amazing. Best meat I've ever had. We slow cooked it for 18 hours. Barakai and I stayed up all night long and shoved coals on it, kept it at 180 degrees. Really, really amazing meat. Rob wants to know about them women in Kiev. You can get an SKS in Canada for $150. Wow. I did not know that. They have crept up in price here, but that may be because we're keeping them out. And I don't get Canada. You guys can have the SKS, but you can't have an AR. I mean, I get it, I guess, because they don't have the detachable box magazine, but I just don't, I don't know. I don't get Canada. You guys should be, I don't know. I don't know why there's gun laws. Australia is the same way. I'm like, what? Come on now. This is Crocodile Dundee. That's not a knife. This is a knife. You know what? Gun laws in Australia and Canada? You guys are lumberjacks, for crying out loud. Kodiak bears. It drives me nuts. Rat Route, you are correct, and I should have siphoned out that water. I didn't even think about it. That was silly on my part. There's always beef or venison barbecue. Yes. All right. Hey, folks, I'm going to have to check out. Oxjaw, we appreciate you coming in, and God bless whatever you got going on. Off Interstate 8. Hey, Craig, double check. Maybe there is a second Golden Corral, but maybe there's an intersection there between Interstate 80 and I-475. I will double check myself and get that information out of here. But oops, sorry. It's right off of an exit at 475. Canada, Corey says Canada doesn't have a ban on the Rinco, hence the lower costs. That makes sense. Yeah, and you know, at $150, yeah, the SKS is an amazing rifle for $150. I mean, amazing rifle. $600, $500, not when you can get a really good mil-spec AR-15 for $650 these days. Now a bunch of people are going to come out and start screaming about my AR-15 obsession. I love the AR-15, guys. I have literally used it to pound 200-pound rubber dummies for hours at a time with like a baseball bat almost. 450 if you build it, yeah. And then use that same rifle to qualify at 500 yards with iron sights. Drugged it through dirt, dragged it. I don't know. through dirt, snow, sand. I mean, I treated that rifle just awful, awful. And that thing never jammed on me. And now we cleaned it. Now we cleaned it a lot. And I had a couple of, like, probably 4 jams in 4 years and thousands of rounds. And they were always connected to the magazines. It was never had anything else that did 1022. David checked it for us, yeah. Okay, so Craig, you're right. It is off of 80, but David checked and it's 475 and 80 intersect right there. So thank you, David. David has an amazing ability to research knowledge. David, by the way, is a high-powered movie producer. I just found this out the other day. He has producer credits on a big budget movie that's coming out soon. So we're pretty proud of Rob, 1022. I am really excited about this M1 1022 clone. If you look for it, it's a destruction without creation is going to talk about durability in guns. That's another one of those topics we might want to go back to the Holocaust. But if you look at the newest Ruger 1022, it's got the M1 furniture, and I think it may be the ultimate tactical 1022. It's a little bit longer. It's got really good iron sights. I want this rifle. It's a little pricey for a 1022, but if you're interested in the 1022 from a tactical standpoint, the M1 version, I think, is the way to go. All right, now the Makarov and durability. Here's the deal. The Soviets were really good at making guns that when something went wrong, you could fix them with a rock, but they're actually not good at making guns where nothing goes wrong, especially when you factor in how unreliable the ammunition itself is. So durability is one thing. You talk about the AK-47 being durable until you realize, most of them have a 6,000 round service life. After 6,000 rounds, most AK-47s are junk. Guys on the internet all the time long will tell you, no, I've shot 100,000 rounds to my AK-47. I'm sorry, I don't believe it. Most AK-47s, after 6,000 rounds, they're not good for anything other than shooting milk jugs at 10 feet. And they get stress cracks in the trunnion and all that stuff. And an AK-47 is actually pointless to try to replace parts on. It's easier to build a whole rifle than it is to replace parts. So, durability is more complex than the debate on the AK-47 and the AR-15, you think, especially when you start factoring in reliability of ammunition. And most people are going to be shooting that junk Wolf and Tula stuff that has a lot more failures per thousand than any of the surplus. Anyway, this is I shouldn't get off on this. I lost my wife again.
No.
Oh, see, I like it when she's here. You don't have to, if it's more comfortable over there, baby, you're fine. She's not mad at me anymore. I'm never happy when she's mad at me.
I just want to be able to read the comments.
Oh, well, here, I'll move over.
No, you're fine. Stay. I just don't want to be in the background doing nothing. You're still getting me in the background.
Oh, you don't want to be in the, oh.
I just want to be able to read the comments.
I got you. I'm sorry, she doesn't want to be in the feed. So Mariah's here reading the comments, guys. All right. If you look for durability. Colt Trooper for reality. I love the Colt Trooper. Beautiful, beautiful weapon. Oh, Craig, that's flattering, buddy. Thank you. You went and bought an H&R 410. I took some. Jimmy D, you be nice to Craig, Jimmy. After that video, Jimmy was not a fan of that video, but I stand by it. Jimmy had some great points to bring up, and things that needed to be incorporated into the debate. But I still stand by it as a home defense gun. When you have family members who may be using it who are not going to be, James Yeager, tactical SEAL Team 6 wizards, I think it's a good choice. But you know what, Jimmy, now that I think about it, it wasn't the shotgun you were unhappy with. You didn't like the choice of shells now. Fill me in. I don't remember. It was a while ago, Jimmy. Mike says hello. Miss Wifey. Mrs. Wifey says hello. Oh, the mead, Craig. You're just, you. Thank you, Craig. So we make some mead, and it's really easy. You get some honey. Honey's expensive, I know. So I mean, but you get honey. You mix about 3 to 4 pounds of honey with a gallon of water. You can put brewer's yeast in it, or you can just let it set. It goes a little quicker if you put the yeast in it, but it will ferment just as well from the yeast that's just naturally in the air, and it is. Oh my gosh, I don't know how those Vikings ever got around to running around Northern Europe killing everybody. They with that mead, they should have just stayed home and been content. That may have been while they were doing it. Actually, they may have been raiding for honey because they'd used all their honey up already. Mead is amazing. It takes, I don't know, probably 4 to 5 weeks before you get a good alcohol content. It rarely lasts that long. I mean, you just start drinking it right away, even before it ferments, because it just, I mean, it's honey water, you know, it tastes great. Usually before you ever get it to fully fermented, you drank it all already anyway. Supposedly, that if you can, you know, get it, let it ferment for about 6 weeks, and then bottle it and let it sit for a year, it's at its best. I don't know that we've ever got it to last 6 weeks. We have a batch right now that is doing okay because it's for my brother's wedding, and so we're not drinking it. But usually, hey, Juice, AR-15 for home defense. Here's my problem. Behind that wall, well, behind every wall you see here, there's children sleeping. And of course, you know that that AR-15 5.56 is going to blow from one end of this house to the other. So for me, it's just too much potential for overpenetration. You know, with that break action 410, we can stave off any threat and defend what's important, even if we have to let a few of our possessions go. Now, not everyone's situation's different, and everyone may make their own decisions about that. I'll be honest with you now, if I had my options, I would have a pump 410 or the circuit judge 410, or I saw at a gun show the other day, an AR-15 410. I would love to have any of those options. You know, the follow-up shots, you know, I would rather, but we can't afford that right now. The break action 410 is what we have, and I'm not uncomfortable with that.
Jimmy's leaving.
Oh no, Jimmy. Oh, more buffering than conversation. I thought you were leaving because we were talking about the 410. Hey, brother, we appreciate you, sir. Madeline says bye, Jimmy. Or was that Zoe? AR-15 is platform to stick to with here in the States. Parts, ammo, accessories are available and will be for a long time. Yes, William. Let's hear about the mead and honey, David. You know what? Actually, David, we don't have bees yet. That's on the list. I just know where there's a hive that I could go get all the honey from. AR-15 for home defense. We just talked about that. You have a life and people that care. Most of us never will. I am very, very blessed, Mountain Truth. There is no doubt about that. I have things I don't deserve. Yes, Rob, getting a hive and bees and honey is next on the list. Hopefully this year. Oh, David said something about apple peel. Dadgummit. Okay, apple peels, high in natural yeast, to go faster and add a unique taste. I will try that on the next batch, David. I did not know that. The ACSS reticle for your AR. I have not. I have an integral carry handle AR, Edward. So I don't have a flat top, so it's a little harder for me to put optics on there. If I ever do another build, or if I get a second AR, I'll probably get one with a removable carry handle. I really like the A2 sights. I think the integral carry handle and the A2 sights are the way to go for the fighting farmer. You know, those of us who are never going to be SEAL Team 6. But that may be due because that's what I carried in the Marine Corps, and so it just may be bias on my part. And Jimmy's leaving us. Good night, Jimmy. Juice, bird shot, then follow up with buck. That's actually what I do. I've got a bird shot. I may have 2 bird shots and a buck shot. Or it may be a bird shot. I have to double check. It may be a bird shot, 2 bird shots and a slug. But yeah, we start with the bird shot and then we follow up with something a little more persuasive. Kevin, you guys do mead too, huh? Juniper berries and mint to the honey. Hadn't thought about that. Do you do that from the onset? Mike Cernovich's German Shepherd is all the home protection he has right now. That's pretty good protection, Mike. Still nice to have something that goes boom. Yeah, destruction without creation is not allowed to protect his home in California. In California, it's not your home, sir. It's the government's home, and they just let you stay there. North Kentucky has a loaded 30-30. 30-30's got very similar ballistics to the 7.62 by 39. I mean, you're not underarmed with that at all. Hey, Rob, get a hive and get a swarm. We actually had a swarm this last year in a tree outside the house, probably 20 feet off the corner of the house. I wish we could have got to it, but I just had too much going on. Uncle Ruckus has a Mossy 500 with number 4 shot. Rob, 130 for a package, Italian bees. Cool. Mike Holland, drive up to North Carolina. I will set you up with all the hardware you need for a couple of hives. Hey, Mike, I would be really interested in talking to you about that because I really want some bees. If you want to shoot me an email, therevoltingman@outlook.com, and we'll talk. Patton uses a High Point carbon 45 ACP with frangible rounds, best gun and much more reliable than my duty Glock. You know, the thing I like about the High Point carbine is that you can also pair it with the pistols and have the two matched. David caught sight of Madeline again. Rob Painless says, howdy y'all. Hey, Rob. Mike put his phone number and email out. These comments all go away, Mike, once we close the stream. So I won't have access to that once we stop streaming. So if you would, please shoot me that email, therevoltingman@outlook.com. Mike saw some shotguns for sale at Walmart. Wasn't sure if they're worth my hard-earned money. They're pretty cheap. They're I've seen some for there under $200. They're not bad guns. What's that? What's the most basic shotgun for home protection you recommend? I'm low on shekels. Me too. Look at anytime you put an opinion out there about guns, there's going to be 10 guys who come back with 30 different opinions. Anything's better than nothing, and I think most people are well served with a 410. You can get a 410 break action insanely cheap. In fact, you can get one with barrels where you can swap out a 22 and 410 and have a pretty versatile little weapon. You can even get an over-under 410 22 pretty cheap, under $200. And now the downside of the 410 is shells are a little expensive, but not awful. But there's a whole host of reasons that I like the 410 for inside the house. Women and children, not children obviously, but women and older youth who may have to use it won't be intimidated by it. You're not going to blow holes through walls. If you ever have to justify your actions in front of a court, you can go and say that you weren't using some laser guided missile system. You were using a break action 410 with birdshot rounds, and it becomes very easy to justify your actions, and you don't look like some crazed Rambo, bloodthirsty killer out there. But any break action shotgun, any shotgun, if you can afford a pump, that's great, or semi-auto. But if you can't, any break action shotgun is adequate. Maybe you put a bandolier on the stock and you have got a few shells that you can throw in the chamber. You can get 20 gauge. 20 gauge is probably actually your best bet. It's a little stronger than the 410. It's not as strong as the 12. Shells are a little cheaper than the 410. But I like the 410 for those reasons I just listed. Appreciate that, Mike. You are a fortunate man with a guy like that. Yes, I am. She's a good woman. North Kentucky got a nice 410 with a choke for $150 at a pawn shop. Yeah, I think I bought ours at a pawn shop brand new. It was a Rossi youth model, you know, with the barrels I could swap out for the 22, and I think it was in the 130 range. Axe 609's with us. I hadn't noticed you yet, brother. He likes the 20 gauge pump, and I agree. That's a great option. Mark Beasley uses his blunderbuss loaded with 10 penny nails for home defense. At least it'll nail the sheetrock tighter. Nice, Mark. North Kentucky likes the 410 for squirrel and rabbit. Cool. This has been fun. 410, Free America has that same Rossi for my wife. I really like it for. I keep getting you in the shot, baby. I'm sorry.
No, don't worry about it.
I really like it for that reason. You know, I feel confident that Mariah can use it effectively. Hey, Boski, we're glad you found us too, brother. Because you have a boat and you're in Florida. Music Well, him and his daughter both shoot ARs. Yeah, some of my daughters want to start shooting, and I've been remiss that I don't have them shooting yet. And I think they'll probably shoot the AR. I had a real nice pump action 22, but it was an heirloom, and it was to go to my daughter when she got, my oldest daughter when she got married. And so she got married, and I've lost the rifle. What are you saying, Burden? You can also cut the fletchlings down on an arrow, twist it down into a 410 shell with no shot, and shoot an arrow a long ways fairly accurately. I am pretty sure that there is probably a really good story behind that, and it probably involves a grandmother or a mother going gray early. Thomas Renner, for home defense, I use a Winchester lever action 22 Magnum. My brother actually uses the Henry for his home defense, the 22 lever action Henry. You know, I would feel fine with that. What I like about the 410 is that, you know, Mariah can just clamp it under her arm, point in the general direction, pull the trigger, and she's going to put lead on target. You know, the 22 requires aiming, and it's sometimes in the heat of the moment and everything. You know, you don't want to have to worry about that. Whoa, Rat Route, Maverick 88, 12 gauge, Walmart, $188. Yeah, that's pretty affordable. Kevin bought an 8 gauge double barrel punt gun. Where did you even find it? Kevin, do you really have an 8 gauge double barrel punt gun? Oh, David learned that from a poacher. Shame on you, David. The punt gun, if you guys look up the punt gun on YouTube, it's like a cannon. It's gigantic. It took up a whole rowboat, and they would use it to kill 100 ducks at a time.
Hey, look.
Was it?
PJF.
What? Oh, dear Lord. Pastor Fox, it is wonderful to see you, sir. Thank you. I have to try to not act like a stupid fanboy. But I am a stupid fanboy. Corey sees them too. Well, Pastor Fox, boy, it seems like this is a situation I should take advantage of, having you pop in like this, sir. You know what? Earlier, folks were asking about the Hebrew roots. I'm not sure how exactly how you would define it yourself, sir. But if you wanted to put some stuff out there in the comments, there are some folks who are very interested in Passover and some of that stuff. In fact, I think probably most people in here you probably sent us anyway, so they're probably all your viewers anyway. But was it Kimmy earlier who asked, and someone else was asking earlier about some of the Hebrew root stuff. And if I may ask, sir, do you describe yourself as being Torah observant or Hebrew roots, or do you put a label on it at all?
He's the way.
He's the way. Oh, okay. Pastor Fox wants to talk guns. All right, we'll talk about guns, Pastor Fox. Mountain Truth would compliment Mariah for putting up with me. I would too, Mountain Truth. Yeah, Patton's. Everyone's going to want to talk to Pastor Fox for a while. I'm just sort of going to read Pastor Fox comments. Mike Cernovich is a New Testament kind of guy. We all are New Testament kind of guys, Mike. We don't lose the Old Testament when when we take on that New Testament. Tough to explain with my thumbs.
The way.
The way. That's what Mariah said. Well, you're right. It is the way, sir. So I guess that probably says it all. Well, I want to start explaining now, but I don't want to put words in Pastor Fox's mouth. We're big admirers of Pastor Fox here, but we haven't had the blessing of being directly in contact with him, so I wouldn't want to speak to him. That people who come underneath this umbrella, you know, there's a wide variety of differences in how some folks approach it. So, like first century church. Okay, your show. I am here to listen. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll stop being a stupid fanboy. So we were talking about shotguns. Well, since Pastor Fox brought up the first century church, we'll just say, yeah, that the early Christians, the faith that, you know, Paul and Peter and James and all those guys practiced was I don't want to say it's not, when you say it's Jewish, it's not the Jewish Judaism we tend to think of, Talmudic Judaism in this day and age, but it was tethered in the Old Testament, and those early Christians would have considered themselves, you know, Jews who the Messiah had come, who believed the Messiah had come and already. So for those of us, a lot of us, and I think Pastor Fox would say that, you know, we're New Testament Christians, but that doesn't mean what you think it means. All right. Oh, Mike, no, that covenant didn't die. You know, God's words are forever, and God's doesn't change. There's things that He changed for us, but God doesn't change, and His words last forever. Krebby Syntax says, hello, Krebby. Mead versus watermelon wine. Rat route. Well done. Pastor Fox's watermelon wine against my mead. Now, I'll be honest with you. Pastor Fox is the Viking, and I'm the one with the mead. So it may be that I need to get some mead over there to Pastor Fox. I think he's missing out on the watermelon wine. All right, I'm going to skip the Gnostic and Arian Christendom. Naked Archaeologist. I actually watched that show at one point, Rob, and I don't remember much about it. Mead and watermelon wine. Now, you know what's really good is mead and sweet tea. Arnold Palmer, my butt. You mix mead and sweet tea, and that's good stuff. But anywho, all right, we are far afield from our original topic of what's this? Oh, that's that old one. Mead and sweet tea is awesome, Corey says. Our original topic was eating for a whole week off of you know, food we'd raised here on the homestead. We've got Mariah with us now. Is there anything you do want to say about that? About the original topic? We're way off of it. It was a really neat week. It was a really neat experiment.
We've been eating nothing but red meat and sweets for the past 2 weeks. So
we're still detoxing from our week of healthy eating, or retoxing. Yes, we're retoxing. Edward Leonard, good evening, brother. Thank you for stopping in. Got to light the wood stove. Yep, it's getting a little chilly here too. Well, like I was saying, it was what was most interesting to me about it was my flesh rising up like that and demanding these things that I don't even really get that much to begin with. You know, sweets, anything different. You know, I wanted variety in my diet, and I wasn't even doing it that long. And I love sweet potatoes. I could eat sweet potatoes every day, but I was just craving some sort of entertainment. That's what it was. I wanted food entertainment. I wanted my food to entertain me.
Just not having something to snack on.
Yeah, snacks.
Just the act of snacking on something.
It was interesting. What was the scripture you talked about being ruled by our stomachs?
Yeah.
I can't remember the scripture off the top of my head, but we were ruled by our bellies, and it was very, very interesting to see that about ourselves. Where did you get a beard like that? I ordered it. Like everything these days, it comes from Amazon. You like that?
Beards are us.
Beards are us. No, it's amazing. They just grow on you. You just stop shaving and they grow on you. The trick is to quit shaving your neck. That's the hard part because it itches, and you've got to put up with an itchy neck for like 3 or 4 weeks. But that's what fills it in and makes it bushy. Is quit shaving your neck. And beards are us. All right, what are you talking about, Mountain Truth? How about something different? Our reality is a small subset of a much larger construct. I think most Christians would agree with that what we call reality is a very small, tiny little bubble inside a larger spiritual reality. In fact, I don't like Augustine for a lot, but he does have a few good things, and one of his, he talks about what we call reality is actually surreality. This is fake, and it's the spiritual world. We can't see that as the real thing. Boski just made my first sweet potato pumpkin pie. Boski, please, please, please give me an address where I can send you sweet potatoes. We have so many sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes the size of my head. I kid you not. These things are huge. Kevin, Philippians 3:19. I would have to look it up, and my Bible's on the other side of the room. But can you post us the text on that, Kevin? Sweet potato fries are really good, rat. Some of us atheists would say the same. Hey, Acts 6:09. So I'm always surprised when people tell me they're atheists, and I'm like, that guy's normal. How can you be an atheist? I ran my mouth one time on the channel about atheists, and one of our viewers, who is one of our most valued viewers, a guy named, well, I won't say his name. He may not want to, but he came back and let me know he was an atheist, and I was deeply humiliated because this is a wonderful man. So obviously I disagree with atheism, but as I've grown older, I've quit. Hopefully, I've learned to stop running my mouth about people I disagree with. Hi, Maddie. How you doing? Patton, you guys had monster sweet potatoes. I had to go buy some from local. I need to plant some this year. They're really, really easy. I mean, stupid easy. And they just grow like crazy. That many extra sweet potatoes. Corey, I'm tempted to unplug this thing and walk in there and show you the sweet potatoes, just the ones that we have left now. A couple 100 pounds. What do you say, 300 pounds?
We haven't even made a dent.
Yeah, we haven't made a dent.
No noticeable dent.
We have hundreds of pounds of sweet potatoes. Life is far too complex for this to be it. Acts 6:9. Are you an atheist? And you believe that there's something that exists outside of what we can observe? That's an interesting combination. North Kentucky. We are in northeast Georgia, kind of near the South Carolina, Tennessee, North Carolina border. If you've ever seen the movie Deliverance, we live not far from where that was filmed. If you've ever seen The Band of Brothers, we live not too far from there. Reality is malleable. You can create your own if you have a will to do so. Rob Kramer is a political atheist here. You'll have to explain that to me. Thomas Remmer, you have to love them like a brother. I'm assuming you're not talking about the sweet potatoes.
You might have to love them like
Acts, following God doesn't mean we can't have morals or integrity. That is definitely true. Just most atheists, you associate atheism with the belief that there's nothing more than what we see here. Patton, it's illegal to homestead in my state. Really? Are you in California too? North Kentucky, his wife got married in the Smoky Mountains. Did you do the Gatlinburg thing, North Kentucky? Mike Cernovich, God bless you. Thank you, Mike. Mountain Truth says you have pretty lips. How do you know? You can't even see my lips.
it's a delivering sign.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right, the pretty lips line. I was like, wow, random. You want to see my lips? There you go.
Oh, God.
They're not pretty. He doesn't believe in politics. Thank you, Free America. What is an atheist? Again, I forgot. Atheist is one who doesn't believe that there's a God or a higher power. Communist hates self-sufficiency. Is a hurricane malleable? No. I agree with you, Boski. There's certain Pigeon Forge. It's right outside Gatlinburg. We were just up there this summer, right? Yeah, we love driving up that way. That is a beautiful, beautiful area. There's a place now. If you're interested in homesteading, and if you can ever get near Pigeon Forge in Gatlinburg, go to Cades Cove. Amazing place. It's a national park, and it's got all these old homesteads and everything, and old cabins, and just amazing. Music Wells near Nashville. Maddie P is asking if we are in Texas. Are you asking if we're in Texas, Maddie? No, we're in Georgia. Hey, Greg, we bought our home. It was $30,000. We put 10 down. Mariah had an inheritance, and so we're paying off $20,000. It was a foreclosure. It's a double wide trailer. I believe it's a 2007 on 2.4 acres. We couldn't have built for that kind of money. You know, it was just too affordable. We have since expanded. At that time when we got married, we only had 3 kids living with us. We now have 7 children living with us, and then others that visit in and out. So the space is getting a little crowded, especially since a substantial percentage of them are teenage girls at the moment. So we're going to do an add-on at some point, but I'm not sure when. Hot Springs, no, we do not have hot springs near us. Where are we at?
A lot came in real fast.
Okay, Greg asked about did we build? You know, the funny thing is, Greg, both of our parents built our houses we grew up in. Mariah's dad and my dad. Mariah grew up in Massachusetts, and I grew up here. And they both built very similar houses, barn-style houses, and we lived in them for years unfinished. It was kind of a fun, and we didn't even realize it till after we got married that it's a similar upbringing. All right, living off the grid is my dream, mine too, Mike, and we're getting close. We're getting close. In fact, if we do this addition to the house I was just talking about, the addition will be off grid. Music Well, you're talking about the deer in Cades Cove, I think. Yeah, they are gigantic, and they are scared of nothing. Sean Smurfy says, I know a bloke who shaves 10 times a day and still has a beard. Why does this sound like a drinking song, Sean? This sounds like something drunk soccer fans sing right before they get in a brawl in a pub. Could you pickle sweet potatoes like you pickle watermelon rind? Probably, Robinson, but there'd be no point. They preserve real well. Especially in a root cellar, or if you just keep them from freezing and keep them out of the sun and whatnot, they preserve really well without the pickling. All right, Mountain Truth lost his beautiful wife. I'm very sorry to hear that. And you live next to the cove now, sitting on the dock of the bay. I won't start singing. We all know how that ends. Do you have hot springs near you? No. I'd love to live off grid too. Shalom, Sister Kate. How are you, ma'am?
Hey, Sister Kate. Whoa, they're rolling in.
If you guys don't know Sister Kate's channel, I'm not supposed to do my annoying fanboy routine, but I'm going to do it anyway. Sorry, Pastor Fox. I actually have to limit my exposure to Pastor Fox's videos because I start sounding like a parrot. And so I get my Pastor Fox fix through Sister Kate's channel, For God Live, and it's one of my favorite channels. She doesn't get quite the traffic PJF does, and that's a shame because it's a really good channel. Very simple. You're not going to get any nonsense out of Sister Kate now. If you don't want to get told the truth, then don't go over there. But Sister Kate's is how I keep up with Shofar Mountain so that my channel just doesn't become, Pastor Fox said.
What is your take on tiny homes?
I have 13 children. I think tiny homes are for someone else. All right. You remind me of a Texas man. I don't know why. Actually, my family comes out of Texas, but it was before World War II. My grandfather left Texas after the war and went to Chicago. He stayed in Chicago for 10 years and went back to Texas. Left a few things behind, notably my father. So my father grew up outside of Chicago. Most laws concerning Bolshevist states are completely unenforceable. Don't worry about them. Trying to keep everyone on the grid, make it easier for them to spy us and keep track of everything we do. Yes, and make us pay them lots of money. Tiny homes are neat, Mike. I didn't mean to sound dismissive of them. It's not where we're at right now in our lives. You know, there's the great baseball player Ty Cobb was born real near here, and there used to be this little, I thought it was a corn crib. I mean, I thought it was a corn crib, but it had a sign on it, and I stopped to look at it one day, and it said birthplace of Ty Cobb. It was the house Ty Cobb's family lived in when he was born. He only lived there for a couple of years, and then they moved to a town called Royston, farther away from here. I mean, it had a decent sized family, as I recall. I don't remember how many kids, but this thing had no windows, and it was probably 8 foot by 12 foot. Tiny, tiny, tiny house. So what we call tiny houses, you know, historically have been houses. Uh-oh. We are losing battery power. Oh, I'm sorry, baby. Oh, I unplugged this. That's all it was. All right. Thomas would love to live off grid. There's Sister Kate again. Everyone wanting to talk to Sister Kate, obviously. Rob likes Sister Kate's channel too. Axe, do I reload at all? No, this is something I have to start doing. I just can't afford the gear right now. Oh, what happened? David Burden, you need my house. 5 bedrooms, 2.5 bath, 2 stories with basement. What are you're rolling around in that thing like a BB, Burden. Rob Kramer works with a engineer who designs single log homes. You can make the inside cedar and outside fir. We don't have fir around here, and our cedars probably aren't big enough to build with. But I would love to have a house that the inside was cedar. We're gonna. Sometimes in the background of some of the videos, you may see our lumber stacks. I don't put the sawmill in the videos too much because it's my father-in-law's sawmill, and so it's kind of would be unfair to act like, you know, it was part of our thing. But he bought it and put it out here, and so I do have access to lumber and timber. And we'll be timber framing the addition when we build it. I'm actually excited about it. I've always wanted to do a timber frame. So we've got some 6x6 timbers and some 4x4s that he's already sawed up for us that we'll be using in the root cellar project as we get closer to that. But like I said, the cedar trees we have around here, you know, cedars are real, at least eastern red cedar. You know, what we have is a real slow growing tree. It's also a very brittle tree and has a lot of knots and everything in it. It's great for paneling. It's real pretty. It smells nice, but it's not real great for building. West Virginia is looking great as far as land prices go. There's a lot I like about West Virginia creation. And Sister Kate hasn't grown one sweet potato. I don't understand that, Sister Kate. I think they would do great where you're at. They don't need great soil. They're real drought resistant. They like a little bit of water at the outset. But and actually, if you're they're frost tenders, so we can't do it here. A little bit farther south of here, though, you can just keep them and have to replant. But obviously up here, you know, they're frost tenders, so the frost kills them. I'd imagine it's probably similar out there on Shofar Mountain. What a wonderful source of all kinds of vitamins, and you know, and they're just this giant carbohydrate, you know, that you need for that energy you need, and you can produce a lot of them really easy, and then they store well, and then we're not going to put in that many this year just because of how many we have left over. We'll put in a few, but about this time of the year, you start your slips however you want to start them. There's a couple of different ways. Deep South Homestead has a bunch of videos on it. We just tend to take potatoes that look like they're putting eyes out, and we put them in a jar in the window, and they start putting slips out. And when they get 2 leaves on them or 4 or 5 inches long, we break them off and put them in a jar, and then they put a jar of water, and then they put roots out. And sometime in March, when the threat of frost is gone, we plant them, and they do great. David Burden says, yeah, he's got way too much house. So I suggest, Sister Kate, that Shofar Mountain, what's the old, I move that Shofar Mountain adopt a sweet potato patch this year. I don't think you would regret it. David's wasting his space. Oh, man, I hate it when it jumps like that. Corey Smith said something about sea knights. I'm not sure what you're talking about there, Corey, although I do seem to remember there was a helicopter unit in the Marine Corps called Sea Knights. Christian Maley says, I subbed and I really like your channel. I hope you keep what you're doing, and I also liked and shared the stream. Thank you, Christian. We appreciate that, sir. Pat Patton wanted to do a simple bag house, like a hunting cabin, 10 by 10. I bet you meant log house. Does a token from the crown count? Not sure what that means, Corey. I'm sorry. Okay, North Kentucky says off-grid is our next move. Got our house and land paid. Aging in place is a must-do here. I'm 50 but young. Boski, a sawmill. Yeah, and it's a nice sawmill, too. It's a band sawmill. It's one of the smaller ones, but it works really well. Rob Kramer, do you have any timber frame tools? Yeah, I mean, like, real timber frame tools? No. I don't have the big spuds and the large, yeah, those things. My mind's going blank. Chisels and whatnot, or the I can't remember what they used to call the old drills. Brace and bit maybe. I don't have any of that stuff. I've got modern equivalents that'll work. The thing to remember about timber framing is that it doesn't all have to be old world New England craftsmanship. Timber framing can be really easy and rough and still be very, very effective. It's not all block planes and files and putting the whole thing together 2 times and taking it apart and shaving it that last time. You can be a little rough with it and it'll still be every bit as effective. Not as beautiful, but as effective. Although my father-in-law is a New England craftsman, and he probably won't let me get away with doing that. Sister Kate says, try the Forestry Service. Sometimes can get logs cheap. That's a good point, Sister Kate. And we can apply for a permit. I think it's $10, and you can cut all the dead wood you want off of the forestry land. We've got a lot of commercial timber around here, and I know a lot of loggers. Believe it or not, we've got a surprising amount of logging around here. I could probably turn up logs with very little effort. Alrighty, you just answered a question you should acquire. Okay. No, a bag house. Oh no, you actually meant a bag house, Pat. I'm sorry. You take feed bags, fill them with surrounding soil, like military-style sand building, bulletproof, thermally consistent. What happens when it rains, though, Pat? I mean, is there something that keeps your bags from disintegrating in the rain, or does it not matter? And at Urban Tactics, that would be inside the house. I was a standard infantryman, and my specialty was anti-tank on top of that. So that doesn't stop me from spouting my opinion off, but that's all it is opinion. There's probably guys who are better equipped to tell you how to handle each area. I'll say this. I think up close, around the home and the surrounding area, a shotgun is your best bet. If you have some wide open stretches and spaces and everything, then maybe you want to have something else loaded up. I do not keep my rifle loaded. Our home defense option is a shotgun. I do have something I can fall back on if I need a little bit more concentrated firepower. I don't, you don't want to put all of your information out there. So it's not like the shotgun's the only thing I would rely on, but that's our first line of defense. And you got to get past the dog to even have to worry about the shotguns. All right, Patrol Zone and Kill Zone. Casper, thank you. That sounds like someone's version to explain that. You know, lots of times you're dealing with tactical issues and defense issues, and there's lots of different things and ways that work, but there's different terminology and stuff. But I like that patrol zone and kill zone. That's a good way to put it. All right, Rob Kramer got into Ted Benson books. There's a company out of Montana that came out to Washington State and built a house as well, and their trailer over $200,000 in tools. I was in love. Yikes, that's a lot of money in tools. Axe 609 wants to build a stone addition to my log cabin, but working 50 to 120 hours a week doesn't leave much time for that. No, it does not. Patton's talking about the water or the bag house. They're pretty watertight. I saw some good vids. You use a mud spackle type of mix on the outside layers. Okay, so this is like a cob house almost, built around these feed bags, and then you cover it with a stucco or a cement. Free America just received Forging the Hero. Yes, Pastor Fox just recommended that recently in a video, I remember. All right. And North Kentucky has 2 labs, great early warning system. Mix those with I had a mix with a lab and a Pyrenees one time. One of the best dogs I've ever owned. I didn't know it at the time because I hadn't had a Pyrenees yet, but they have the Pyrenees temperament and personality and size, but he didn't have all the layer upon layer upon layer of hair. David Burton showing his background. It's like a sandbag hooch with extras. Stinking infantry. Guys, this has been great. I think we are at 140 minutes. We have enjoyed this immensely. It is always exciting when Pastor Fox makes an appearance. We're big fans of his. So I don't know if he's still out there, but sir, we certainly appreciate you coming in and giving everyone a little bit of thrill, and we thank you for all the leadership you provide. You know, it's easy to come along behind somebody, but being that trailblazer, being that trailblazer, you know, that takes vision and fortitude and hard work, and that's certainly what Pastor Fox is for us as a trailblazer. So y'all have a good evening, and we'll do this again soon. Remember, the meet and greet is in Macon on March 10th at 12 o'clock at the Golden Corral off of Interstate 80 and I-475. And then someone was supposed to email us about the retreat for the Biblical Families Retreat, and we'll get you some information about that. Oh, we can't get out when Texan just got here. Tex, I have an entire video that has been inspired by you. The whole video is a jab at you, Tex. I have figured out a way to show the world how life looks to an AK-47 fan, and I'm gonna film it and I'm gonna put it out there, and it is dedicated to you, Tex. I think you'll be amused. Sister Kate's talking about the Edwardian Tudor Farm videos. Mariah just watched, what was that series you watched, baby?
That was it.
That was it? Yeah, those were really, really good. I didn't get to watch all of them, Sister Kate, but Mariah watched them and showed me the highlights. And of course, that's what we're aiming for anyway, so we were really excited about watching them. But excellent suggestion, Sister Kate. Those were very good. All right, Tex, I'm so sorry. I wish we had a chance to banter a little bit more. Tex is really fun with some of the back and forth. Has a sense of humor all his own. He also has a channel. It is not for the faint of heart. If you're easily offended, stay away from Tex's channel. But if you're easily entertained, definitely check him out. I enjoy Tex's channel. All right, folks, we really appreciate you. Thank you. Good night, and we'll see you soon. Well, maybe. We might see you again real soon. Apparently, we're just going to keep going because I can't turn this thing off. Oh, there we go.